Last night, tanks rolled down Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C. in a military parade ostensibly meant to honor the Army's 250th anniversary, an event that happened to also fall on President Trump's 79th birthday. With the price tag of $45 million, Trump reveled in the spectacle and touted America's military might. But just hours earlier, another one of our country's strengths was on display: the constitutional right to protest. Millions of people across big cities, small towns took to the streets to march against the Trump administration and to declare that America is no place for kings.
I'm worried for my kids, my trans child, and everybody else like them. And it's just terrifying, the hate. I'm afraid of all the hate.
We came together today to voice our stern opposition to the policies, the racist and fascist reactionary policies of the Trump administration, who is trying to take this country towards a dictatorship.
If you know anything about history, the history of Hitler's rise and taking over a democracy in the Weimar Republic, he's following the very same steps.
You see the same patterns?
Yes, exactly.
Joining us now, Reuters White House correspondent Jeff Mason and retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Steve Anderson. Brigadier General, I want to start with you. As the military man at the table, your thoughts on what you saw yesterday in Washington, D.C.?
Well, first of all, I'm very proud of the United States Army. They did a magnificent job yesterday. I mean, they executed the mission, conducting this parade absolutely brilliantly and flawlessly, as I knew they would, and they always do. Having said that, it was a colossal waste of time, effort, and money. We don't need, that's not who we are. We don't do these kind of things. We don't march down the streets like that. We prove ourselves and our value as an army, our strength as an army, through our actions, not parades. That's something that dictators do. And I think the money that was spent, I mean, it's colossal when you think about it. $45 million is what the White House admits to. But this town was shut down for 3 days. It's still shut down out there. You can't get across the 14th Street Bridge, for instance. And you shut down the airport for 3.5 hours. Yeah, the tens of millions of dollars of inconveniences that were created. The town, Uber drivers are complaining. You know, the hotels have been shut down. I mean, you can't get around. And so there's a tremendous cost associated with that. We're going to have to fix all the roads, by the way.
Yeah, $16 million of the 45 is for the roads.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it was an incredible thing. And think about what we could do with that money if we had it instead. I mean, the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines out there, they need support. Donald Trump already stole $1 billion from Milcon, from military construction for the southern border. I mean, so there's barracks that are not being renovated. There's child care centers that are not being built. There are perks that soldiers and their families deserve. They're not going to be able to get because Donald Trump has stolen this money, essentially taken it and used it under priority. So I think that it was what happened yesterday, although wonderful to watch and behold, and it's great to see soldiers do well, it was a colossal waste of time, money, and effort.
And so, speaking of something to behold and watch, Jeff, you were there. you were on the ground. Tell us not only what you saw, but the people you talked to while reporting. Why were they there? What did you hear?
So the people I talked to gave an alternative view. I spoke to people who came from all over the country and came in large part because they support President Trump. They felt like having the parade was the right thing to do, was a good thing to do. A couple of them who I spoke to, I posed the question that the general was raising, which is that critics believe this is a symbol of autocracy and veering towards dictatorship. And their response to that was, no, it's not. Britain and France and other democracies have held parades like this. Why don't we do that too? So they felt that that was not a view that they shared, and they came out because they felt that it was a sign of patriotism and a sign of strength.
There was an energy at the rally that didn't seem super political. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just from walking around D.C., everyone wasn't wearing MAGA hats. It was more American flags. It seemed a little more muted than other more political overtly political displays we've seen.
The only thing I would disagree with there is I saw a lot of MAGA hats.
We're down on the mall. Yeah.
There were a
Okay.
lot of MAGA hats down in the fall. But I wouldn't disagree with your characterization that it didn't feel super political. I was on that area or in that area on January 6th as well, 6 years before ish. And that the energy that day was entirely different. Yesterday was certainly calmer. It was, I think, more about patriotism for these people than it was about Trump.
And almost a more touristy energy, too.
There was a touristy energy as well, for sure.
And let's go to the energy at the rallies across
Yes.
the country, because this is what I think is the interesting contrast. The crowd sizes at so many different
places.
locations around the country. Let's just show some of that footage to get a sense of the scope of the protest.
And as a matter of fact, let's show Jamie Raskin at the No Kings protest in Philadelphia where he says, "We are not your subjects."
You are not our king, and we are not your subjects. We will never be your subjects. All of us born here on this land are citizens, and your executive order is nothing but bad graffiti on the Constitution, and we're going to wash it off today.
You know, Gene, he said that. He was on our show yesterday.
Yes. He was testing his work there. I was texting with some of the folks at Indivisible, and they say their estimate at this point, their conservative estimate, is 5 million people participated in these more than 2,000 protests around the country. You were in Alexandria and spoke at that protest, that rally. Talk about what you said, and more importantly, what you heard from the people that were there. Why were they out there?
Well, they were there because they supported the No Kings rally, and they want to essentially stand up to what Donald Trump is trying to do. I mean, he's trying to take down the judiciary, trying to take down the military, of which the parade was an example of. He's using everything as a political prop. He's trying to essentially build some kind of a autocracy in this country. And so there was a lot of energy in Alexandria. And probably, 5, 6, 8,000 people were there, crowded around one small little microphone and a speaker. And it was incredible. It was electric. And I think that shows that there's a lot of people out there. I mean, 5 million people that showed up at rallies. That might be a stretch, but even if it wasn't in that number, you had incredible energy, incredible power, and incredible anger at what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now, and it certainly manifested itself in these rallies yesterday.
Well, speaking of anger, the actor Mark Ruffalo spoke at the No Kings rally in New York City. Let's listen to what.
I was looking out at Constitution Avenue from the spot where the press was standing, and there was one reviewing stand there that was maybe half full, maybe only a third full. And I spoke to one photographer who said it was really making it hard for him to get a good shot because it wasn't staged well.
It wasn't dynamic enough.
Well, and that's not to say that there weren't a lot of people out there. There were long lines of folks who couldn't even get in because of some complications there. But the spot where you, as a show producer, as it were, which yesterday was largely a show, or at least partially a show, maybe wasn't totally full the way they should have if they were planning it the way they had wanted the shots to look.
General Anderson, the Army ran some very heavily produced interview documentary type production ahead of this, and Fox News ran it in full. It almost seemed just like free advertising for military recruitment, which on the one hand doesn't bother me, but then on the other hand, it was very uncomfortable in the sense of just, is this appropriate?
Well, we are politicizing the military.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. He's trying to politicize all the branches of government, all the institutions that are out there. He's trying to, he doesn't give a whit about soldiers. He really doesn't. I mean, he's President Bone Spurs, 5 deferments. He doesn't understand anything about selfless service or sacrifice. So it's really sad that the soldiers have to pay homage to this man. Having said that, I mean, the marketing material that they put out there, and good for the Army. Take advantage of this opportunity. Get the recruitment out there. Get soldiers. We need soldiers to make our Army even better. And I think it's great. Bully for them if they took advantage of this, as they should, and showcase the Army for what it is, the finest fighting force in the world.
Jeff, one question that I have, and I'm still trying to do my own report, I'm curious if you have any yourself. Do we know anything about how the president himself when looking at what he saw, and then also the reporting and the video and the pictures around the country, how he's kind of taking in these two sides of the country, these two worlds that were on display yesterday. And if we don't have any reporting, you know this man. We all do, right? So we kind of can assume how he's taking it in.
I've covered him a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I will use an example on that from just a couple nights ago when he went to the Kennedy Center for the opening night of Les Mis. He was asked on the red carpet for a reaction to the fact that some cast members reportedly decided to boycott that night, and he said he didn't care. I think that's probably his attitude to the rest of the protests around the country, too. It's not...
That's what he says.
That's what he says. I think his focus would have been on that military parade yesterday. I think he cared a lot about that. That was pure Donald Trump to be able to see and celebrate that Army parade yesterday. That said, and I hear the skepticism in your voice about this, you know, I don't think he likes to see dissent. I mean, we know that he doesn't like to see dissent. And so the headline that he's looking for is about the military parade and about him and about victory and about strength and not about this bubbling up opposition. And I do think, lastly on that, the bubbling up opposition is a fascinating trend this week. And the question for me as a reporter is whether or not it's an inflection point, because Democrats and opponents were paralyzed at the beginning of President Trump's second term. And this last week shows that that paralysis may be gone.
Oh, yeah, there's no paralysis. I mean, you can't get millions of people in all 50 states to take to the streets in the face of an administration that put Marines on the ground, on the streets of an American city, and be paralyzed. I think the American people have been jolted and energized, but that's just me. Jeff Mason, Brigadier General Steve Anderson, thank you both very much.
What we're witnessing here is military people give up on Trump, turn on him, attack him, because he's humiliating them. And like nothing these men have done, right? These men and women have done. Like, I feel bad for them in this instance, at least, right? Because it's like, he's the commander-in-chief. He wants his dumb parade. He's going to get his dumb parade. Right? Like, it failed. But, like, he's going to get it. But it's an abuse of power. And, guys, again, it would be one thing. I wouldn't be downplaying it. But it would be one thing if it was just in isolation. Donald's having his dumb parade that failed and embarrassed the country and embarrassed himself and made his whole movement a mockery. But it's coming in the context of Donald's historic and current abuse of power using the military. And what we've seen is Donald want to sic the military on civilians. We've seen Donald threaten to use the military in expanded ways. We've seen him try to suggest that the military is not, beyond him, but rather the military is his personal tool of retribution and of self-aggrandizement. And so when you have the military birthday dumb parade on the one hand, that's just stupid. But then you add how he's been weaponizing the National Guard and the military and all of that. Then you have a display of fascism. And that's what these generals are worried about. It's not only the cost, it's not only the humiliation of the men and women forced to do this, although that does matter. It's that this connects to Trump's growingly fascistic ideology.